I am Danielle Doloff, and I work for Liventus. Thanks for joining us today. We're doing this webinar because we wanted to help businesses in this time of certainly volatility in their businesses and a lot of uncertainty. We feel like technology can bring those solutions to some of the most complex problems, and we've had a history of seeing that before, so we hope we can help you today find solutions to improve your online business. So what we're doing today is a Q&A style format. We have Tim Doloff, who you should see on your screen next to me. He is our resident e-commerce expert. He's here to answer your questions, and I will tell you a little bit about him right now. He has spent about 25 years building custom software, 15 of which have been in the e-commerce industry. He founded a development firm in 2010 and sold it to Liventus in 2017. And at that time, joined Liventus, felt like it was a really good fit for him personally and professionally. And his primary focus continues to be e-commerce. His customers rely on him to be an expert and a problem solver, helping them unlock business potential by leveraging technology solutions. He's worked with clients in apparel, health foods, in jewelry, entertainment equipment, and even on Broadway, clients who work on Broadway. He's been implementing websites on the Magento platform since it launched in 2007, so probably one of the first people to be using it. Magento is now owned by Adobe. It happened a year or so ago. He also has experience building completely custom websites as well. So as I said, we're doing this webinar Q&A style, as the sole intent is really to answer your questions about the technical side of websites and ways to optimize your online business. You should see the chat option on your screen if you scroll down. Just enter your questions there, and we'll have Tim answer it. When you registered, also, we asked participants to submit their questions in advance if they wanted. So we will start with some of those until we get some questions rolling. So, but once I start to see your questions, we'll certainly get them in the queue and have Tim and I will read those questions on your behalf, and then Tim will answer them and we will go to the next question. So just quickly want to turn it over to Tim for a quick intro, and then I will ask him the first question we have on queue.
Well, and welcome everyone. Glad to be here with you today. I'm going to try to give some actionable answers for you, something that you can actually take action on and start to investigate. Obviously, every industry is a little different. The products you're selling may be different, or the website you have today may not. I may not have the exact answer for you, but hopefully we'll give you some solutions to start looking into. Okay, so yeah, basically what you want to do, the key is to make sure that the products are easy to find, visible. There's a couple of things you can do to do that. If people are not finding the products they're looking for on your site, of course, they're not going to be able to purchase them, or they may not spend too much time searching. First thing to start with is a clear structured menu or sub-menus. If you can get your the shopping part of your site very visible in the menus, potentially even just breaking apart the catalog into specific categories right in the menu so people can find those options easily. A mega menu may be a good solution in many cases, when someone expands the menu, they'll not only see the subcategories within there, but they may even see images that are related to those categories, so that they know right away that they're kind of looking in the right spot. They're seeing what they want. Beyond finding the products through the menus easily, you want to make sure that the product categories are accessible and easy to find. So if it's not even just in your menu, but potentially on your homepage where people are going to be able to see it quickly. Another thing is when people are looking at the categories of your products, make sure that they have the tools they need to filter those out. If you have 300 SKUs in a particular subcategory of a product, don't make them browse through all those categories. Give them some ways to filter that to a way that's useful for them. Some common ways for filtering your categories, and this will work for search results as well, would be things like the prices, if it's apparel, for instance, the size of the product. A lot of things will use color, using brand. If you are selling multiple brands on your site, you can offer filtering that way. Another really important key for helping people find products on your site and getting them to the cart is making sure that the search tools are really easy. You should have a very easy visible search. It's typically going to be in the top menu, so people don't have to look far to get to that. When they start to type, you can implement something like an autofill. So if someone starts to type in, let's say it's a brand name or a style, that it might pre-populate some possible search results in that search, so that they don't even have to finish the search. You're kind of recommending some things to them. So that can be really useful. It depends on exactly what your catalog is and how people are searching for your products. Another thing with search is to make sure that people are not missing the search results that they're looking for. Oftentimes we find when we review search results that people are misspelling common terms frequently, or maybe they're using dashes in a place where you don't use a dash typically, or they're separating two words that you would normally combine in your product catalog. So with the right search tools, you can often add aliases to make sure that the customers, even if they're typing in a way that is not indicated in the full text of your product catalog, that it will still show up. There's also some important things you can do with your search as far as identifying which fields are really going to be searched. Are you just wanting people to search on the product name, or do you want them to be able to search the whole description? If searching the description, is that going to give too broad of a result set that won't get them the results that they need? So it's important to identify, based on your catalog and the content that you have available and the metadata that's associated with your products, that they can find those things really easily. So those are some really key things, I think, for getting the products out in front of customers and making sure that they're finding what they're looking for. So yeah, I could go on about this for quite a while. I'll try to keep it succinct. Number one is trust. If someone's coming onto a website, there's a lot of visibility into data breaches and hacks and credit card theft online. And so customers, before they're actually going to purchase on your site, they need to feel comfortable that your site is secure, that the necessary precautions are taking place, and that they can trust that experience. A couple things that you can do to implement that trust. One is just make sure that the site is professional. It looks modern. If your site looks like it's 20 years old, customers are likely going to believe that it may be 20 years old and hasn't been updated and maybe isn't being supported and is more risky that way. So make sure it's responsive, it's mobile friendly. Mobile friendliness is also important just because of the way that customers are using websites today. So it's important that they can experience that on their phone without having to zoom in and things like that. Make sure that the content on your site is timely and current. If you have the latest blog post on your site is 15 years old or even a year old, or 3 months, people are going to assume that you're not actively supporting that site. So it's risky for them to place an order and not knowing where it's going to and who's going to get it, if the order is ever going to be fulfilled. Having customer created content is important, and that usually comes in the form of reviews. So if you can enable reviews on your products that real customers have used, that they've supplied their feedback on, that's going to give your customers a great confidence, both that people are shopping on your site, but also confidence in the product that you're selling. You want to make sure that you're taking standard web precautions that any user is going to recognize. Of course, your site should be SSL protected so that they feel secure when they're shopping on there. You want to make sure that your payment forms are clean and functional. It kind of goes to just feeling like a modern site. And then, of course, not only do you need to give look like the customer should trust you, but you need to build that trust. And that means making sure that your site is secure. That's probably the most critical thing I would reinforce with anything you do with the e-commerce is don't trust that, that your site's secure. Make sure of it. Make sure that you're not going to be dealing with communications to 1,000 customers on stolen credit cards. Things like that. So those are really important things. But that's just one step, of course. That's just to, give them the confidence that they should even be shopping on your site. Beyond that, something that's going to influence their buying decision, the price of the products. Keep in mind that when you're competing online, there's a lot of competition out there, and probably your biggest competitor in most cases is going to be a site like Amazon. Most people just immediately go to Amazon to do their buying, or even if they're finding your product or your site in a different way, they may be doing price comparisons against Amazon. So think about that when pricing online. Remember that you're selling direct to a consumer in most cases here, if we're talking B2C and not B2B, but you're selling directly to a consumer. So you don't have a middleman of distributors, wholesalers, retailers that are selling your products directly. So you have the opportunity there to still get a good margin, even if your prices are lower. And that's one great way to show competition with sites like Amazon. So that's important. If someone, obviously looks at your product and they like it, and they feel like it's overpriced based on what they're seeing, then that's going to be a problem. Of course, that depends on your brand too. If you've got a if you've got a brand that is more on exclusivity and less about value, then that may not make a difference for you. Another big thing that's related to price, but this probably has the biggest impact on cart conversions that we typically find, and that is your shipping costs on your site. Even if somebody finds your product, they like the price, it seems fine to them, and then they go to get it shipped and it just raised the price by 30% or 40%. That's usually where a customer is going to leave the cart at that time and probably not come back to your site. So that's another thing you can consider in your pricing model. Oftentimes, if you're selling direct to consumers, even if you want to leave the suggested retail price on your product on your site, you can sometimes, help them with the shipping costs and not make that visible to them. In other words, offer free shipping over a certain dollar amount, or free shipping on any products in your catalog, and you may still make a decent margin. Again, this is a case-by-case basis. If your products are extremely heavy, if you're shipping internationally, you have to be careful about those things, and you can set up different rules based on whether it's a domestic shipment or it's an international shipment. But it's important to to consider how a shipping cost is going to impact a customer who would much rather than spend $20 to get something shipped, maybe go to Target and pick it up in person, or go to Amazon and get it through their Prime account with free shipping. One other thing for influencing buying decisions on your website is the loyalty to your site. If a customer gets there, if they have a good experience in the first place, they will more likely come back and continue doing that. Also, if you can drive some loyalty, things like frequent messaging that is useful for them. So that means once your customers shopped on your site or shown interest in your site, registered for an account or whatever, if you're touching base with them through through newsletters that include discounts on their product, if you're doing follow-up on their experience, those types of things can really help remind them that they shopped there and that they had a good experience. You can also implement things like loyalty points that you see in a lot of in-store places, where, hey, if you shop here, and you spend $100, you're going to get a $10 discount on your next purchase. That type of thing will drive customers to say, hey, I really, I need to go back so I can get that free coupon, and then also now I've got the coupon, I'm going to go back there and use it. So those are some basic programs that I think are pretty useful. Another thing is make sure that the customer feels confident, and this kind of goes back to trust. But when they're shopping on your site, they should know what your shipping policy is. When can they expect to receive the product? Also, what's your return policy? If they get that product and they're not happy with it, can they return it? They know they can if they go and buy something at Target or Walmart. They know they can if they buy something from Amazon. So are they going to have that confidence? If you have a return policy that you want to make sure it's visible, make sure it's clearly spelled out. Sometimes that means, obviously you want to have a full return policy, but having some detail about that on the product page so that they're seeing that right when they're making that add to cart decision. Have it on the the order confirmation page before they hit that final checkout button. So those are a few things. Yeah, that's interesting. So first of all, one of the most important tools for customer service is to try to eliminate as many customer service requests as you can. And this circles back to what I said about making sure that your shipping policy and your return policy is clearly spelled out. Give customers the information they need when they're in the shopping experience, so that they don't have to follow up with you, and so that they're going to be satisfied with the goods that they're receiving and when they receive it. That means making sure that you've got good details on your products. So when someone's looking at a product, are they going to have all the specifications they need, the dimensions of the product, the size? If you're selling clothes, do they have a size? Do you have a good sizing chart that's going to be accurate so they can feel confident that when they buy that product, it will fit them, and then you're not dealing with returns and follow-up and stuff like that. So communication is number one. Again, I could go into that for a long time, but let me just leave it there on that aspect. Another thing is make sure that the customers have a way to reach out to you if they have questions. And so there's obviously a few ways you can do that, and depending on your fulfillment process and your customer service capabilities, you may or may not want to include a customer service phone number on your site. But if you do, your customers will feel very confident as long as they can call you and get a real live person to talk to fairly quickly with that phone number. You can eliminate a lot of issues with customer service and kind of head those off earlier, whether it's either when they're making their buying decision or when they've received their product and they have an issue or a complaint or a question about it. Also, your customer service reps should be experts in the product that you're selling, at least be able to find answers for the customers. So if you're selling other companies' goods on your website, make sure that your customer service reps know how to answer questions to your customers about those products, or that they have the resources that they need to direct those customers to the right place, whether it's the manufacturer or things like that. Another thing you can offer on your website is an FAQ. That just, again, helps head off a lot of questions that you would normally get. That being said, aside from making sure that the customers have the information they need, you also want to make sure that you're not missing any orders. So your order management process and system needs to be foolproof. Don't let any orders slip through the cracks. Through the cracks. So making sure that it's clear when an order comes in. If you're relying on, hey, an order comes to my website and one person on my team gets an email about it and then they send it to processing, that is not foolproof. Most likely at some point there's going to be an email failure. That order is going to go to spam. That person's going to be out of the office sick for a week unexpectedly, or any number of other things, and your customer order is never going to even be seen, and that's going to result in negative customer experience. They're not going to return if that happens. Potentially social media complaints, things like that. So making sure that there's a clear process in place. Any good order management tool. We often work with Magento, as Danielle mentioned. And so if you're relying on the order management tools that are built into that e-commerce platform, it's very clear which orders, that they're open orders, what the status on them are. Their order confirmation emails can be part of that tool set to be sent to people that are responsible, depending on the volume that you're dealing with, but you shouldn't be relying on those. It should be somebody's responsibility to check those orders on a timely basis and make sure that the status is accurate and that they're following up on them. Another tool that you might consider, depending on your volume, is something like a ticket management system. And you can either do something that's built in to your order management tool set. So, for example, we could build out a feature that allows you to kind of, every time a customer service request comes in, pull up the order in your order management system and add the details of it with the time that it was placed, their responses to it, things like that. And that's linked directly to your order management system. But if you're not going to do something that integrated, at minimum, you should make sure that you've got a ticketing system where any customer service requests are tracked. So yeah, B2B is a great topic. We see more and more manufacturers moving B2B. A lot of businesses now are doing their commerce B2B rather than relying on your traditional sales channels, things like having your customers fax in your orders or phone in the orders. And the business customers are loving this experience. The opportunity to do things a little bit more on their own schedule, making sure that when they're putting in an order that there's, it's not being keyed in incorrectly somewhere else. They can feel confident that the order they place is exactly what they're going to get when it's delivered, being able to see real time what's in stock, things like that. So that's just kind of going into why that's an important topic. But A couple things to think about with the B2B experience. So first of all, if you are selling direct to businesses and direct to consumers, it's important to differentiate that experience. Make sure that when your B2B shoppers are on your website, they don't care about the consumer pricing. Don't show them the MSR, or at least don't show them that that's what the price is going to cost. It probably doesn't matter to them. Show them what the pricing they're going to see is. So a B2B customer should definitely see pricing that's unique for them. Oftentimes B2B customers are going to have special pricing based on their size or agreements or things like that. And so if you can integrate that with your ERP system, if you're using something like that, or build it into your e-commerce system, it's important that they're seeing accurate pricing so that they know when they complete that order that that's what they're going to pay for it. Also with B2B, there's a lot of content that is more B2B specific. If you're trying to provide, let's say that you're selling to retailers so that they can sell to consumers, it's important to provide them with the sales tools that they need, information about the product you're selling, the specs, marketing tools that they can buy, an image library so that they can put that on their own marketing materials. Those are good tools to have for your B2B customers. But if you're also selling to consumers, you don't want the consumers to get bogged down with all that information that shouldn't be visible to them. So when your customers are logging into their website, the experience that they're going to get should be differentiated for your B2B customers versus your B2C customers. Now, if you're only selling B2B, what you're going to find is that there may be information you don't want the average person to see. So if you've got your marketing website that talks about your product and you want your B2B customers to be able to go there and place an order, you probably don't want to show your wholesale pricing to consumers that happen to find it. You may not want to show product specs or marketing materials and things like that. So having a secure login area where the B2B customer can log in and get information that's relevant to them. Sure. Thanks, Eric. Yeah, that's a great question. And obviously the key word in there is unseen. And that's, obviously you can't anticipate every situation. But we learned some interesting things from this experience so far, with the COVID situation. One is that many of our customers weren't prepared for the level of growth that they received once retailers were shut down and people were doing their ordering online. So many of our customers have actually drastically increased their business over the last month or so based on the types of products they're selling. And they were not prepared for that, both with the infrastructure that their e-commerce sites were running on. Maybe was not as scalable as they should have had or should have been prepped for. It didn't auto scale as traffic increased. So those are some key things that I think e-commerce companies should be aware of and be thinking about for future situations. Also, the ways that they are able to fulfill orders. One thing that we found really valuable for some of our customers that was pretty prepped here was that they were able to get, with the right tools in place, they were able to get messaging out quickly. Having good content management tools on your e-commerce site is important because it can actually allow you to quickly message to your customers as things change. Let's say, your load is much higher, so you need to be able to message to customers quickly that orders may be delayed due to this situation. And most customers are pretty understanding of that. But if you don't have a way to quickly get in there and update, homepage information or information on your checkout process or on your product pages that prep the customers for that, that's something that, certainly you can prep for any future situation. There was a lot of our distribution centers, customers' distribution centers that actually had to be closed down because of infection in that place. And so again, the ability to be able to update that communications to the customers quickly before too many orders are placed and aren't going to get fulfilled, as well as quick access to those orders so that they can respond to them. And then I would say one other thing is that, this is where customizability in your e-commerce solution is important. You can rely on an out-of-the-box or a software as a service type of solution that has very basic, minimum viable e-commerce capabilities. but it doesn't allow you to pivot when your business needs to for something that is unknown. And so if you are working with a solution that is very customizable, very flexible, allows you to change as you need to, that's if a company can have that type of solution in place, that gives them full flexibility to come up with ideas and adapt them quickly. And we actually went through this a lot. We have a number of customers on the Magento Commerce platform that immediately started to see opportunities to pivot their business. I think that's really what this webinar is about. But a couple examples is a company that was selling children's clothes that realized that there was a need for face masks, and they immediately we were able to quickly get them up, their product catalog updated, their messaging on their website updated, and as well as completely custom features, things like the ability for their customers to donate that product, which they'd never had a need for before. But because of the flexibility of the platform we were working with, we got this stuff done up, and they're able to take advantage of it while this crisis is actively happening, both helping their business, but also helping their consumers and helping a lot of people that need those products. Similar thing, we have some clients in the health food industry and the supplements industry, and there's a lot of demand for those products for immunity products and for hand sanitizer and for things like that everybody is now thinking about for the first time, and we're able to help them quickly adapt their the way that they scale up their product catalogs, the visibility of the products. Adding, I think that I see a question. Okay, that's not on that side right now. But I expect that some people may be interested in, well, how do we do if we have brick and mortar stores and an e-commerce presence? Yeah, so there's a couple important things to think about when you're doing a buy online, pickup in store. If you have brick and mortar stores and you have an e-commerce presence, how do you get those customers first to know that option is available to them, but also make sure that it's a seamless experience so that if they're buying that product, they can expect to get to the store and it's going to be fulfilled for them. So number one is integration with the point of sale system that you're using in those stores is important for a couple reasons. So that you can make sure that the inventory is clearly defined, so that the orders are presented to the tellers or the people in the store that are responsible for fulfilling those orders, so that they can go and pick them and get them prepped in a timely basis. And when the customer gets there, they're not waiting. They're ready to just take it and walk out, since that's the whole intent here. So integration with the point of sale system is important, and it can be challenging, depending on the size of your store or your operations. Some point of sale systems don't have a ton of flexibility there, but that's going to be a key part of it. Another important thing to think of with buy online, pickup in store has to do with your in-store pricing. And what we found is that some retailers maybe they offer discounts in store that they can't offer online because of manufacturer MAP pricing models. They're not allowed to publicly advertise online, under a certain point. So there's not necessarily an easy solution for that, but it's something you have to consider. You have to think about whether or not you're going to be able to match your in-store pricing with your online pricing for those pickup in store orders. And if not, how do you handle the communication to the customers about that? Same thing with in-store promos. Are you going to accept, if somebody found a coupon in an advertisement you had that they would normally bring into the store, you're going to accept that when they're placing the online order? And how do you sync that up? How do you make sure that those promo codes work in your online order? Same thing with, now the customers are shopping online and they're going to your store to pick it up. Do you offer unique online discounts? And if so, are you going to honor those in the store? Now, you may not, and you may not need to, but it is important that you communicate those and you've got a clear customer service answer if those questions come up for your customers, or a way to maybe give the customers that solution, even if you're not advertising it in both venues. So those are a couple important things to think about. Loyalty is another thing. A lot of your customers that are buying in a store, you may have an in-store loyalty program. Maybe it's a punch card. Maybe it's a key fob that they can scan. And so they may be expecting that same thing when they're buying online. So again, that's going to come down to integration with the point of sale system. But if you can sync the customers, your point of sale, your in-store customers up with your e-commerce solution, so that when the customer places an order online, that it gets linked back to that customer account and those loyalty points get rewarded, that's a great solution for your consumers. So that kind of covers some of the challenges that you need to think about on online versus in store. But then as far as the user experience, it's about making sure that it's a clear, clean user experience. If you have multiple brick and mortar stores and someone's going to be able to pick up in store, of course they need to make sure that they're picking the right store, because you don't want your order fulfilled at one store and then have that customer pick up at the wrong store. So clearly identifying when they're choosing the product and adding it to the cart, what their preferred store is, making sure that as they get through the checkout process to the cart page, to the final order confirmation page, that store is there. Make sure that that they can choose the time that they can pick up that order, because if your tellers have to fulfill those orders, you want to make sure that a customer doesn't place an order, run over there 10 minutes later and expect it to be ready. Make sure that they're not trying to pick it up after business hours. So for instance, one of the solutions we did for a retailer recently is we looked at their business store hours listed on their website, and it's stored as metadata in the content that they control, so that they can go in and update those stores on a regular basis. But we synced that data to the checkout process, so that as a customer is checking out and they're picking up their pickup time, it's going to look at business hours for the next 24 hours. So they gave them a pickup window of 24 hours within business hours. So those are some important decisions for the user experience to make sure that the customers are going to be satisfied. Sure. So one important thing is obviously letting the customers know that they can use this service. And obviously, we're talking mostly about your online store. So having that visible, especially in a situation like this where it's very timely, people are wanting to know that right away. If you can put up, messaging right on the homepage quickly that explains that it's an option, that may get people who were just really going to your site to maybe check store hours or maybe check to see if you have a product in stock. All of a sudden they may be excited to say, wow, they order. I know that the retail stores are closed right now, but they have a pickup in store or curbside pickup option, or I don't want to be in a retail store right now, even if they are open. So knowing that option's there is going to drive them to your store, and it's going to drive the loyalty. So present that to them easily, as quickly as you can in the process, but also not only on the homepage. If you can make that messaging clear, like when a customer is adding the item to their cart, that's an option, that's important as well. And this does come to how quickly you can do that stuff is really going to be a lot dependent on the flexibility of the e-commerce solution that you're working with. Yeah, that is a very big question, and it's going to be very dependent on, what are you, if you're selling to direct to consumers versus B2B, and really, what's the size, what's your product like, what's the budget? But the general answer is, if you're going to be selling online, there needs to be a reason for consumers to go and buy from your store versus on Amazon, or to go into a store. Obviously, right now, there's a lot of reasons to buy online. And so typically that's going to be, if you think that you're going to be successful as an online seller, it's either because you have a brand that people are going to be searching out, or it's because you have a product that's unique that they may not find other places, or you have a way to present that product and that shopping experience to them that they are not going to get other places. And so if you are a fairly small, if you're a fairly small, let's say retailer, but if you're selling B2C and your SKU count is fairly low, your product count is fairly low, and you want a very out of the box e-commerce solution, there are good software as a solution, products out there that you can get up to speed quickly and things like that. But the problem with those is that it's very hard to differentiate. If your site looks and flows the same as every other small business online, if you're not doing anything unique for your customers, that's a pretty hard sell to get them to start buying on your website. So if you are looking for that more unique experience, the key is to go again with the solution that's pretty flexible. If you, a great example, for instance, we work with a furniture reseller who wanted to start selling more products online, but customers are looking for, very detailed options. And so providing a more of a wizard type of experience where customer can, choose the fabric and then choose the style of the furniture and then choose the wood grain. You can't do that in just a typical solution, especially if after they make those choices, can you show it to them and how that looks and how that functions. If you want to do something like pick up in store, you need to have a custom solution that does that. So one of the key things with getting online in the first place is looking at the options and making sure that you're making a choice that's going to work for what your goals are with the business. I would highly recommend working with a professional that has expertise in these e-commerce solutions and letting them help you find the solution that's the best fit for you. I mentioned we work with Magento Commerce primarily, and we found it a great fit for many businesses for most solutions. It's not always the right fit, but that's a tool that will help you do almost anything you need to with e-commerce. The other reason you want to work with an expert is not only to identify the right solution, but also security, as I mentioned earlier, is absolutely critical. And if you are, if you find somebody local who they work out of their basement doing web design on the side, and you're letting them handle your e-commerce presence, that's a huge risk for you. So don't expect that you're going to get this up quick and cheap and be successful with it. Like I said, there are low budget solutions in the right scenarios, but plan on investing. That's what this is. If you're getting online and you're going to do this, you're investing in a solution that is going to, become profitable, turn revenue for you, help you sell products, help you get more visibility. So again, investment's important. One key indicator, if you have a brick and mortar store right now, a nice way to think about it, and this is obviously just a generalization. A nice way to think about it, though, is that your budget for running your e-commerce store should be at least similar to what your budget for running your in-person store is. And running a brick and mortar store means you've got your overhead of your building rent, you've got your supplies, your inventory, your personnel. There are different costs on running an e-commerce site, but they're probably related in many ways. Depending on how much you're selling, you're going to have the people that are going to handle those orders and process the orders and the marketing involvement to get visibility, things like that. So yeah, that's a pretty general question, but hopefully that gives you just a little bit of guidance. The key is, don't go into it blindly. Make sure you're working with experts that understand e-commerce and can help guide you to the right solution. One last thing I would say about e-commerce that I think a lot of people don't necessarily think about is that sometimes you're going into e-commerce because you think it's a way to sell your products. But another thing to think about is that e-commerce is also a way to present your product catalog and give people an option to buy. So e-commerce may not always be a profitable venture, but that doesn't have to be the primary motivation for you. It may be more about making sure that you've got to have a product catalog, you've got to have your marketing tools there so your customers can find you and find your product.
What other things can we do to personalize the online shopping experience for a customer? It's a good one.
Obviously, the ability to present customers with products that are relevant to their shopping history is good. If you can help them find products that are useful for them, that's great. Marketing to those customers is important. So for instance, like I mentioned, follow-up messaging. When a customer has placed an order, they purchased something from your site. If you can target them very specifically in the product categories that they've purchased, if you can segment them, that's going to be hugely important to bringing them back to your site. If you're selling apparel and a customer bought 3 women's dresses the last time that they were at your site, and the next messaging that you send out is about a discount on men's underwear, they might find that useful, but it's probably less likely that customer is going to actually get any value out of that messaging. So one, it's going to make it feel like spam to them that they don't care about, and they may unsubscribe at that point. But two, it just doesn't, you're not getting as much benefit. So if you can segment, if you can identify what products the customer is purchasing. You may be able to get that information based on their product history, but you also may be able to get it based on things like their gender or other variables that you can pick up during the customer registration process, or just based on habits, and then direct those users on future promotions, future messaging to those specific products. That's a great solution. Dynamic product marketing is also great. If your customers are logging in, or that you're using cookies on your site to kind of track that customer has been there before, you can potentially provide dynamic messaging as far as the banners that are on your site, or the product categories that are highlighted on your homepage.
Hoping this really helped you guys figure out your e-commerce business, how to optimize it, how to save it, how to get online. We're hoping to do more of these because we really like this format, and we really want to share the knowledge, right? And engage with people and see what people are asking. It helps us hear these questions too. So just as a quick follow-up, you'll get a link to a recording of this webinar. Tim provided lots and lots of details, which is great. But you may have to go back and listen and kind of make notes of all the great advice he gave. So you'll have that. We'll also be sending a poll just to get your thoughts. Any other topics you'd like to see, or any other questions we didn't get to. That's what the poll is for. And of course, if you have any other questions or needs on e-commerce, you can find us at liventus.com. And we'll be happy to help you there as well. So that's it. We're going to end the webinar. Thanks for your time. Be safe and be well. Bye-bye.